What's going on, everybody? It's Richard Dickson here, and welcome back to another episode of my self-named podcast, the Richard Dickson Podcast. I always wish I'd came up with a cool name like Modern Wisdom or something like that. My favourite one actually is probably The Game. Hormozy's one, such a cool name. Mine's just Richard Dickson. I've actually got a recurring theme of doing that for years and naming stuff after myself. Dickson Ventures, Usd Property Investment. I've just got a theme of doing that. It shows either a lack of creativity or an abundance of ego. I think it's probably been a mixture of the two over the years, but I think I'm getting better on the ego thing now that I'm getting slightly older. Now, you might be tuning in on Apple Podcasts, you might be here on Spotify, or you might be watching this right now on YouTube. I think I get most of my views on this on YouTube anyway, so you actually watch the videos and see what's going on. But if you're on any of the podcasting platforms like Apple or Spotify, thank you very much for joining us. And if you enjoy today's episode, please feel free to click down below or up above or to the side. I literally don't listen to podcasts on these platforms, so I don't know where to direct you. And feel free to follow the show and tune in the future. So, today I'm going to be talking about something that's kind of fresh on my mind a little bit as well in terms of just general work ethic and all that kind of stuff, because very fortunately last week on Thursday and Friday, I was in the States from Wednesday until Monday, but on Thursday and Friday specifically, I got to spend some time with Alex Hormozy, with Layla Hormozy, and with their team at acquisition.com HQ in Las Vegas. Now, before I actually talk about the content and the topic of today, which is essentially why the 4-hour work week is pretty much bullshit, I just want to say that if any of you guys get the chance to go and spend 5 minutes with Hormozy's team, or with him, or with Layla, jump at the opportunity. It wasn't what I expected when I went. I thought I'd booked something very different, but the thing that I got was better than the thing that I thought I was going for. So even though I was a bit like, this is different from what I thought I was getting, it was a pleasant surprise. Massive over-delivery and loads of great stuff I'm going to be applying myself in my business. It's just another reason why I'm still so invested in educational stuff. You know, I recommend for people to invest in themselves and their education. It's one of the few things that can never be taken from you. And I don't ever tell anyone to do anything that I have never done myself. I am very much a firm believer in education. Now, one of the big lessons from Hormozy and things he talks a lot about is just work ethic and dedication. And honestly, a kind of mentally void level of productivity and stuff, like to a degree that it's kind of really hard to understand. Even for me as an entrepreneur, I kind of look at that and go, you're almost not human. Like the fact that you're able to do that and have the freaking lights. It is going to go off every 5 minutes, but do you know what? The people are here for a podcast, Gary, so they'll be able to deal with it, right? Every 5 minutes you're going to have to deal with that. If only we knew a qualified electrician in this office who could potentially fix the lights. It's probably me. So yeah, like even for me as an entrepreneur who understands what it's like to be a business owner and stuff, like I look at Hormozy's level of output and I'm kind of just like, what the hell? It's just, it's pretty mental. That's my general point there. Now, the world today, and it's so funny because this is really a lot of what Growth Getters is about, is so much to do with productivity, right? And doing things in shortest period of time possible and doing things with ultimately the most efficiency, which is what we do for business owners, applying AI, increasing lead flow, just generally tidying up and improving digital marketing and online presence. That's to give you time back and make your customer acquisition process easier and all that kind of stuff. But there's the people that take it to the massive extremes, and I think there's a couple of different reasons for this. People either end up in a position where they're sold into an idea on something that is so unbelievably easy. Hey, you only need 10 minutes a day, and like, I think I maybe spoke about this in a podcast before, but one of the big names in the educational space, Anik Singhal, he just got like sued by the FTC for something that's like, he was selling like a business opportunity thing online, which is not something that I do. We're business to business with nearly everything that we do. He was selling a business opportunity, make money online type thing. It was like 10 minutes a day to make $10,000 a month, and you only need to get it right 10% of the time. Like, basically, you can be wrong 90% of the time and still make that. Got done for like unfair income claims. So there's like people in that camp that have been sold something, and there's people who have read like the 4-Hour Work Week and convinced themselves that everything's going to be super easy and they can just go and be hyper efficient and never have to kick their arse, basically. For clarity, I know people personally who have left considerable professional careers because of books like the 4-Hour Work Week with very little plan or anything in place. I'm going to lift my desk very slightly just now so I can cross my legs under my desk. There we go. With very little plans in place, just because they were so motivated by that book. By the way, irrational actions powered by motivation. I've got a PhD in doing that, so that's not me bashing people doing that. I've done some stuff on paper that is just completely stupid that has worked, but realistically was a really terrible idea, and for it working for me, there's probably like 50 people that have done the same thing and just happened to fail. I don't think that I was special or done anything better. It was probably a lot to do with luck as well and meeting the right people and whatnot. But if you are, let me be super specific about who I'm talking to just now. I'm talking to entrepreneurs, business owners, and high achievers. If you're someone who just wants to organise your silly little life with your silly little friends and do silly little things, this is crazy how quickly that's going off. It's worse than Mother Office. If you are that person who just wants to organise all that kind of stuff, then to be honest, this isn't for you, right? You can go and do the 4-Hour Work Week if you want, because with the greatest of respect, I don't care, and you are not who I'm speaking to. So hope it goes well for you, but I want to speak to people who want to be high achievers and who are maybe potentially being sold up the river on the idea of this 4-Hour Work Week, really efficient, hardly have to do anything type of stuff, which plainly, without explanation just now, is a load of crap and a lie. So I don't know anyone in any of my circles who is like hyper successful who hasn't had to make like a massive degree of sacrifice. So before you even think about just the actual hours, of which they are often beyond 4, the level of sacrifice required to build something that is even decent is extremely high. If you are approaching business just now and you are maybe lazy, demotivated, there's a lot about you that the 4-Hour Work Week or something similar really speaks to, the reality is that you're probably not ready for business, right? I always say this, that people think about, what do I need to do to be able to make £100,000 a year? And by the way, that is the hardest thing you'll ever do, is going from being a normal employee or someone on a basic salary, getting to £100,000 a year. That's the most difficult challenge. But so many people say, what do I need to do that? What do I need to sell? Like, how do I need to market myself? Who do I need to be around? When the question you need to ask yourself firstly is, who do you need to become to be deserving of that, or able to deal with the stresses and different things that come along with doing that type of thing? That's the biggest question. That is the most important question, is who you actually need to become. Doesn't matter what you do, how good your strategies are, if you simply don't have the mental capacity, you haven't created the support system around you, you don't have just the right thoughts and ideas, beliefs around money and success, you're the stupidest things you could think about that seem so insignificant, but in this situation are absolutely massive. If you don't have that stuff, it doesn't matter the skill set and whatnot, you're never going to be that person. So if you're in the position right now, and I'll say this plainly, that you're arguing with the screen just now and saying, I can be successful in 4 hours a week, maybe we have a different definition of success. Your success might be getting to £3,000-4,000 a month so you can just chill and live okay, fine. That's not success to me. I'm trying to achieve 3, 4, 5 lifetimes worth of stuff in one life. That's my definition of success. You're not wrong, I'm not right. We are just different. But when it comes to business success, you're generally driven financially, right? It's not going to be anything other than that. Nobody starts a business because they want to have more free time, or they want to have a better social life, or they want people to like them more, because all of those things are going to get worse, at least in the medium to short term. So if you're sitting there saying, Richard, you know what? Yeah, I can be successful on 4 hours a week. I can do this, I can do that, because I've seen it online and this and that, and you resonate with that so much that the idea of actually working hard and putting in a certain amount of hours into your business isn't even a possibility, you're not ready to be an entrepreneur. This is one of the most difficult career paths you can ever pick. It is, at times, incredibly lonely, very sad, not enjoyable, but when it pays off, and in the times that it pays off, because by the way, you go through periods of it paying off hugely, and then you start thinking differently and thinking bigger, and you have to reset yourself to zero again, or almost zero, or take a pay cut, or whatever it may be, right? Like, I paid myself more in my first 2 years of business than I pay myself now. Also because I've got a better company structure now, so it's a bit easier, but because I'm so dead set on investing back into the organisation, because my vision is so much bigger now. I think way bigger now than I've ever thought before about business. So, but I needed to become that person. I needed to be the kind of bit of an arse for a while and spend all the money and blah, 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 to then become this guy. I had to get that out of my system, rid myself of that version of me. So my opinion is that you're not ready if you can't think about working hard. And here's the thing, so many people say, entrepreneurship's for anyone. I know, so controversial to some people, right? But I love Grant Cardone. But I can love someone the same way I love my mum, I love my sister, I love my girlfriend, I love any of those people. But I can also tell them plainly that I disagree with something that they say and I think they're wrong. I love Grant Cardone. He was the first speaker I ever listened to live. He was the first YouTuber that I ever watched and clicked with that made me feel like I could actually go out and achieve something. And he's always saying, anyone can be a billionaire. Anyone out there can be a billionaire. Now you can dial it down and say, okay, mathematically impossible. And also, I just don't think it's true. But I also get his point, right? It's like the people who, when they're preaching in the street, they would say, God loves you. But many people would turn around and say, in fact, actually, God doesn't love everyone. That's kind of not really a thing. But many people are okay with saying, you know, God loves you if it gets people to listen and come down to your church or whatever it may be, right? So I understand why Grant's saying that, to get people fired up. And guess what? If they aim to be a billionaire and they don't become a billionaire, but they get to a point they make $250K a year, very, very far away from being a billionaire, it's still really awesome. But I am now of the opinion that not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. That's why I've kind of fallen away from really enjoying the biz op side of things and wanting to really be involved B2B, because these are people who've already chosen their path. And sometimes I kind of felt like I was choosing people's paths for them, you know? I was being like, oh no, you should be an entrepreneur, you can be an entrepreneur, and can and should and would and all that stuff is kind of irrelevant. But do they want to? Are they just motivated to because they see what I do? And if that's a motivator and gets people to press on, awesome. I'm kind of still happy with that as well. But you're making big life choices for people sometimes, you know, when I'm not sure that was what that's not what I was wanting to do. So that's why I love doing B2B, because they've made that decision for themselves. I know that they've made that commitment to having a business, owning a business, the things that go into that. Maybe they're not 100% certain on how it's going to go or what they're meant to do, but they've made that decision and I can now go and assist them in that. I have never met someone who's came to any of my events, and please understand that, you know, when we do even a little starter events are super low cost that we will come along to, people assume that because the barrier to entry is so low, 47 quid, 77 quid as a VIP, for example, people come along to these and it's all people who are making like £1,000 a month, desperate to get a little nugget of information. We have people come along to these who are like, have bigger businesses than me, right? Not saying that my business is the biggest ever, but loads of people you would assume, why would you learn from someone whose business isn't as big as you? Well, I guess it's because it's a specific skill set. I'm not saying I'm going to teach you how to be better at your business. I'm saying here's some stuff that I do in my business that works. Do you want to use it? Okay, fine. So we get loads of big businesses coming in. I've got a very successful circle. I've met loads of successful people around the world. I do not know anyone who I would consider to be, you know, financially successful, or someone I would strive to be like, or someone I would listen to and really respect their opinions, who subscribes to anything even near the 4-hour work week. I don't think there's any that would come into the 20-hour work week, you know, unless they are much, much older, 60 plus, exited the business, and they just do consultancy or, you know, dick around the office a little bit a couple of days a week. There's nobody I know who does the 4-hour work week and who is successful. Does that mean that it's impossible? No. But what we need to understand is, like, entrepreneurship is improbable already. You're already choosing to do something that is extremely difficult, that has often high chances of failure. A lot of just stress and hard stuff comes along with it. Like, really, really, really hard stuff. I love to think that I'm just, like, so mentally tough and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, I think I am. I genuinely think I can't break. I don't have the capacity to break, which, by the way, is also really annoying, because there's something nice about having a quit button. There's something nice about getting to a position where you can't do anymore, you can't push anymore, and you just break, because that choice is then made for you, and you kind of get some solace in that. When you can't be broken by your business or your stress or the stuff that's going on in your life, you get forced to carry all of it, which makes it more difficult, especially in business, because it just, like, reaction times and emotional energy you can put into different projects is drastically reduced, right? So I love to think I'm super, super mentally switched on and tough and all that kind of stuff. And the funny thing about entrepreneurship is people will tell you what it's like and you won't listen. You want to go and figure it out for yourself. The same way that when I was 18 years old and I was talking to people who were even when they were 22, 23, and they're like, oh, you think you're an adult? Like, you think you're a grown man? Wait until you're 20. Wait until you're 23. And I'd be like, I'm an adult. And then I get to 23 and I'm like, oh, I thought I was an adult. And then me now, approaching 28 in September, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? I'm not an adult now. Like, it's people tell you and you go, no, I'm not like that. And I know that my grandpa told my dad that, and I know that my great-grandpa told my grandpa that, and we've all turned around and went, no, I'm a man, I'm an adult, and then realised that we're not, right? So there's some things that are universal facts that we just choose not to agree with because we think we're right at the time. And business is one of those things that people say to you, by the way, it's really hard, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, and you're like, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to go and do it. And because you get that hard and small increments, now, yeah, you might get specific situations where it's never happened to me, but you hear stories about, you know, bad business partnerships, and someone wakes up in the morning and logs into the online banking and it's like zero, minus 100k to the business partner's account, and you're like, what the hell's going on here? Why is that person set? And they've basically just been robbed, essentially, right? Like, these bad partnerships. That's a massive, massive issue and a massive hardship is about to start in your life. But these things happen in increments. That's just a big example of one. Whether it's like, you know, someone cancelling an order, like a refund coming in, a complaint going on your Trustpilot, you're kind of signing up to all these small increments of hardship, realising that, like, I realised this recently, that I only really spend time with people one-on-one. And I was thinking, do I only spend time with people one-on-one because nobody wants to invite me to places? Or is it because of me? Now, I don't really like group stuff that much. And I think that the reality is that I've said no to going to so many things so many times that people are like, oh, Richard plainly doesn't want to come, and I have a very small circle anyway. But stuff like that pops into your head as an entrepreneur, and those, for some people, are hard things. Like, oh, why did everyone want to see me in the office or talk to business me, but then when, you know, the business phone stops ringing or the office doors are locked, nobody talks to me, or like nobody makes any plans with me, right? That's stuff that people think about. So you have all these increments of hard, relationships breaking down, family members not believing in you, just different things, these increments of hard. If someone could sit you down and actually make you emotionally experience consciously, hey, if you choose to do this over the next 5 years, here's what it feels like. Me personally, I don't think I would have ever have done it. So I'm glad that it's incremental, and I'm glad that I have to do these little increments. And that is how you take in the medicine, right? It's almost like going for chemotherapy. Radiation in high doses will kill you in a horrific, horrendous way. But radiation in small doses will make you ill. By the way, chemotherapy will make you ill. You won't feel good, you'll be lacking in energy, but it's maybe also the thing that's going to save your life. But if you were to take up a whole series of chemotherapies, radiation into one sitting, it's likely that you're going to die, I think, right? That's me just guessing. So it's one of those situations where overall, depending on your cadence and your exposure, it could be fatal or it could be really good. And I think logically, if I knew what it was going to be like at the start, being very young and immature, not knowing anything about the world, I probably would never have done it. I probably would have been too scared and not had the confidence. Now, that's not me saying now that I wish I could go back and not be an entrepreneur. I could never go back, and I could never have another job in my life, realistically. I'm at a point where I'm completely unemployable. It's just, and it's not like I'm sitting thinking to myself, oh, I hope I become employable at some point. Like, that's not my thinking. But emotionally, if you knew what it was going to take at the start, you probably wouldn't do it. And I know that the people right now that are saying, yeah, I would do it, yous are the guys that I'm talking about. You're the 18-year-old that thinks you're the man. There's not many of yous here. There'll be less than 5% of the successful business owners that are potentially listening to this. Although this podcast doesn't get very much viewership, but whatever. Out of yous that have made like a couple of million quid or whatever, none of yous, very few of yous will disagree with me, I think. If you truly knew what it was going to be like and the harm that it would cause in other aspects of your life and the uncertainty back at the start about the payoff or whether it's going to work, you would potentially not do it and choose to do something different. And that's such a scary prospect. But this is why it angers me. That's what I'm going to say. It angers me when people come and talk to me about the 4-hour work week. Oh, I've learned about the 4-hour work week and that's what my life's going to be. No, it's not. It's not. Like, I had a very fast start in business. There has been times where I've went all in on things and been completely skint. And it's funny because you're completely skint and you've still got like a nice car and all that kind of stuff. But you're invested. You're not totally messed up. You're fine, but you're all in on something, which is a very like scary, humbling place to be. Reminds you that you're human, and you're not totally, indestructible. It's just a vulnerable place to be, and loads of people will never experience that feeling, especially as an entrepreneur. Experience as an employee, maybe being skint sometimes your life, or you spend big money on something and you're recouping your savings as your salary gets paid. Like that stuff happens. But when I hear the 4-hour work week, I'm like, even me who's had a good run in business and done it pretty fast and knows how hard that was and how many times I've been on the fence, like and I'm not saying this in like a mad mental way, but being like, I wish I could not wake up tomorrow because I'm that exhausted, right? Not like in a pure jumping off the fucking bridge way. People love to make stuff pure more than it is, right? But like in a way that you're just like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. I need a break, but you can't have that break because there's boxes that need to be ticked to make that adequate process. I haven't done that. For you to come up and talk to me about the fucking 4-hour work week, I don't give a shit about your 4-hour work week, right? In my opinion, you are likely going to achieve nothing that is worth talking about with a 4-hour work week. And the funny thing is, the people who are now subscribing to the 4-hour work week who are successful, I bet you they didn't become successful doing it. They put in the sweat equity, the time, the effort to build the thing, the vehicle, the organisation, and then they flip the 4-hour work week and tell you all about how amazing it is. It's like the Liver King. Go and eat raw meat and do this and do that, and you'll look incredible and look jacked. It was so obvious. If you thought he was natural, you were the stupidest person in the world. The curvature in his abs, it's like growth hormone belly. How red his skin was. It looked like it would hurt when you touched him. The pronunciation of his delts, it was ridiculous. He was like clearly a massive gearhead, which is fine. I don't care. That's not me judging him. But he got so many people subscribing to, oh, if I want to look like that and live like that, I need to drink organic, unpasteurised milk, chew cow's testicles, drink blood, sleep on 6 wooden pallets with like no mattress because I'm living by the ancestral tenets. Like, bro, shut up, right? That's an example of someone doing the stuff that they didn't subscribe to themselves and then teaching you something else to get to that stage. It's not fair, it's misleading, it's just stupid, plainly, right? That is my opinion. It is just stupid. So for me, it's important when I look at stuff like this, I can't turn around, and if I started going on to the 4-hour work week now and it worked for me, which it wouldn't, and I don't want to do it, I can't then turn around and start going, guys, 4-hour work week to run and scale a business, launching a business, because I never done that. I didn't build it with 4-hour work week, right? If you're sitting here right now and you want to go and try the 4-hour work week and you want to give it a go and see if you can run a business with it, fine. But accept that it is likely 99% not going to happen. Something like, I can't even remember the exact statistic, I've used it in a lot of different trainings before. Something like 70% of businesses in the UK fail within the first 3 years, and that's people smashing their pans in. You think you're going to do better than the 30% success rate. And by the way, when I say businesses that fail, that doesn't mean the other 30% are hyper successful. That's people surviving, right? That's a business running at a loss, but it's not went down the pan yet. So you think you are going to do the opposite of everyone else, put in no effort whatsoever, and have an abstractly better result than the 30% of businesses that survive after that period of time. You're choosing to make something that is already extremely difficult even more difficult. So if you want to try it, and you want to give it a go, and you want to try and prove me and the rest of the world that doubt that that's possible wrong, amazing. But accept that likely it's not going to work. And are you prepared, if it doesn't work, to revert back to blood, sweat, and violence to make your organisation grow? Because if you're not, don't start. Because you won't be able to live with yourself when you fail. Because you have all these delusions of grandeur that you're never going to fulfill because you're not willing to work hard when push comes to shove, and you're only willing to do it if it's on the easiest terms possible with this 4-hour work week nonsense. I would love to know you guys' opinions if you agree with me on this. If you think, actually, Richard, I see the 4-hour work week as something else, you've picked it up wrong, I think here's some value you can get from it. I personally think it's worth discarding. I think it's worth deleting permanently from the universe. But I would love to know what you guys think about it and hear if it's worked for you, if it's worked for someone you know, if you've done it before, if you think I've got it wrong, if you disagree with any of the sentiment that I have in this video. I just need to tell you what I have done and how I got there. And it certainly was not by the 4-hour work week, nor was it by the 4-hour work week for anyone that I know, respect, trust, edify, or who motivates me to do more inside my business. It is very clear that the results that you desire are often hiding in the work that you are ignoring. And that's not going to get done inside of 4 hours in your week. If you enjoyed this little episode, make sure you can. I always get stuff wrong at the end. This is the funny thing about me making videos and making podcasts and stuff like that, is that I always get stuff wrong at the end. I do the whole thing fine. This has not had to be edited. And at the end, I become illiterate or dyslexic or something, which is not me. If you've enjoyed this, feel free to subscribe on YouTube. If that's where you're watching it, drop a like as well. Let me know, like I said in the comments, what you feel about today's content, if you agree, disagree, all that kind of stuff. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, feel free to subscribe, follow. I don't even know what the button is on there. I know that you can rate the shows on some places as well. So if you happen to be one of the 6 people that is listening on any of those platforms, I would love to know what you think about the podcast. I always say this, I'm going to plan to get some guests in at some point, but I do like having this opportunity to just talk to you guys one-on-one. It's a good chance for me to get stuff off my chest and vent on the internet. Especially when nobody listens, it makes it even easier to say stuff that you want to say. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll catch you all next week. Cheers.